made contact and shattered.
At some point, Chris locates what's called a dry bag.
Law enforcement had considered Laundrie the only person of interest in the murder of his fiancée, Gabby Petito.
Reference to a missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and advised that the mother had went for a walk, came home, now they can't find her. They've been yelling for her. She's been gone for about 10 minutes now.
Turn it over to another agency. Let's get some help.
Hello? It's John.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here for ATS live stream. We're talking about the Idaho 4 case today. We haven't spoken since about mid last week, so there were some things that developed in that time, such as the private driver who drove them home that night, and then we can discuss other things that have taken place too, like the aunt of Jack D has spoken out on behalf of Jack D. We're going to get into that. Let's see what else we have. We're just going to discuss the latest from law enforcement, the new, like the interview with the Daily Mail, aunt of Jack D. Sorry, guys, I'm still recovering from the holiday, but I'm happy to see you guys, and I'm ready to get into this. Good morning, True Crime Fallacies, Corey, Evil CJ, Ashley Oaks. Thanks, everyone, for being here. I see you guys in chat. Hi, Jackie. I'm doing well. Thank you. Hi, Jessie Lynn, RAS. Good to see you. Christy B. Thanks so much for being here, everybody. I hope you had a good holiday yesterday. Oh, hello from Bristol, UK. Good to see you, Simon. Miss Wells, thanks for being here, guys. So still no suspect has been named or arrested. Does that mean that they don't have a name in mind? I don't know. I hope that they have way more information. They've just discussed how they are hoping for a refresh for law enforcement through the holidays. They'll come back all rested and fresh, and we're hoping for that too, because it's just a little bit weary of, still no identification of somebody who could be the suspect, no sketch of anybody who was seen. All we have is that white vehicle, which in the time that we've spoken last, they've come out and said that the abandoned crashed one in the other state was not the one that they were looking for. So just a lot of dead ends, it seems, recently, or just radio silence from law enforcement. It's just very unsettling, although I try to just think, well, they must have more that they're just not sharing. Science is key in all this. They've got to be given back results from labs at this point. Good morning, Lisa Wilson. It's good to see you. And hi, Georgie. Thanks for being here, guys. So I have some notes that I've kind of written down since we've spoke last, and just some stuff that I want to talk about. I obviously edited together some visuals so we can get into that as well. And yes, thank you, Evil CJ Podcast. Please hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done so. It's greatly appreciated, and it really helps the channel out, and it's a free way to support the channel. So I guess what I'll do is play the visuals that I've put together, and then I can just pause it and elaborate more with you guys, okay? And like I said, I have some notes here, so there will be some stuff that we can just pause and discuss. And I do want to revisit the grub truck video. I've included it in here, and I just want to kind of talk through it. We've played it before, but we haven't really dug into it. So I want to pause it and just kind of point out some stuff that I noticed. Again, I have to say that everybody is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So if there is some speculative talk today, if there are names thrown around, especially, with people who we have been kind of suspicious of, just disclaimer, they are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And again, we don't have any suspects named. We don't have a sketch of a suspect. All we have is a white car and an image of a white car that they never even came out and said that that's the car. That that image of it driving by that gas station at 3:45 in the morning, headed towards the house, they've never actually come out and said that that is actually the car we're looking for. So it would be nice to know like what type of trail they have on this car. Last time I was live, I kind of pointed out how the um, public information officer, the chief, and the captain were using language that suggested to me that they had a feeling like maybe this guy was out of Moscow or maybe even out of the state. But the more I'm like thinking about it and the more I'm listening, I'm thinking like maybe they were just saying that to kind of make the suspect feel like, okay, they don't have a clue that I'm actually closer than they think I am, or something. Like I'm not really convinced so much as I was in the last stream that like maybe they think that he's out of state, because they kept referencing how they have federal resources to do interviews anywhere, even out of state, blah blah blah. And each of them was saying it, the chief, the captain, and the public information officer. But now that I'm like looking at things and just listening to other people's analysis of all this. Good morning, Derek. It's so good to see you. I hope you had a good Christmas. Thanks for being here. Derek is one of the first members of my channel, so thank you so much. I'm so happy to see some of the originals, and then obviously everyone else who has joined. I appreciate you guys being here. So anyways, I was just thinking like, it seemed like maybe they were suggesting that he was out of Moscow, but maybe that was just a tactic to make the suspect feel like they didn't have a clue that he's closer. So that was just something I'm like kind of bouncing around in my head. Whereas I thought like, oh, maybe he is from, because the other thing is there's other colleges around, like Washington State also is right there too. So I was thinking like maybe they think it's somebody from out of state, but is like close enough. Like, because Brian Enton, when he was in town visiting, he had mentioned how Moscow is sort of a better nightlife than other areas around there. So students from other colleges kind of go to Moscow for the nightlife and like the bar scene. So I was just thinking maybe they think he's like from a different school, but I don't know, guys. I the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, is this like a local like towny loser guy, like loner from Moscow and just kind of like embedded and hiding in plain sight? Or is it, somebody that they're saying like, oh yeah, let us know and we'll do an interview with them anywhere, even out of state. I don't know. I just feel like there might be some mixed messages from law enforcement, but it's like tactic. You know what I mean? Candace, good to see you. Yeah, live in outskirts of Erie. I just think either my... Oh, you're talking to somebody in chat. But it's good to see you, Candace. I'm glad you're here. And everyone else, glad you're here. So David thinks it's bigger than a college kid perp. 1 second, guys. Okay, so let's just play what I've put together. Again, I edited this together like before Christmas, so I'm just going to be like reacting again with you guys live and kind of discuss stuff, okay? Thanks for being here. Hit the thumbs up if you haven't done so already. It's greatly appreciated. Ex-boyfriend of Idaho student murder victim heartbroken as half of America thinks he killed the love of his life and her 3 friends, his aunt reveals. Victim Kaylee Goncalves, 21, broke up with her boyfriend of 5 years, Jack DeCoeur, 22, just 3 weeks before the quadruple murder, which has baffled police. Jack D. was ruled out by police soon after November 13th. Atrocity, but has been dodged by ridiculous conspiracies, his Aunt Brooke Miller said. She added he's not only lost the love of his life and what we all thought, and he probably thought as well, would be his future wife, get married and have kids, all that. Miller told the New York Post half of America thinks he could have been responsible for the killings.
Brooke Miller said Jack D., a mechanical engineering major at the university, was absolutely sad about the breakup, but the couple were still friends, she said. Goncalves was planning on moving away, and the split was amicable. Days after the murders, it emerged Goncalves and Mogan called Jack at least 7 times shortly before their deaths in the early hours that morning. Kaylee Goncalves' parents, Steve and Christy, have also said that they stand by Jack 1000%. Brooke Miller dismissed speculation online that her nephew committed the murders as ridiculous conspiracies, adding, "We all know beyond a shadow of a doubt that there's no way that Jack would ever do anything like that to anybody." She said Jack D. is struggling with the thought of returning to the university. It's hard for him to think about going back to Moscow because life there was very involved with Kaylee's, she said. Brooke Miller is behind a Give, Send, Go fundraiser to collect 20 grand to help the Goncalves family fund a private investigator and legal team to help solve the case. The very last thing that this family wants to happen is for it to become a cold case. Her comments come as an ex-tenant of the house where 4 University of Idaho students were stabbed to death suggested the victims may have heard the killer enter the house because every footstep can be heard in the creaky old property. Each floor has 2 bedrooms and a bathroom, the previous owner says, who graduated in 2022, lived in a bedroom on the 2nd floor of the house, directly above one of the 1st floor bedrooms. He described Friday how tenants could hear footsteps resonate throughout virtually every part of the home. It's a very creaky old house. You can hear the footsteps on every floor. He added to ABC News, "You can't walk up any of the stairs or on any of the floors without everybody in the house knowing it." He recalled how when he lived there, his roommates below him could hear virtually everything he did in his room. "The person who lived below me always said he could hear me walking around. I had a desk and a rolling chair and he could hear all that roll around." He added the home, set in a cul-de-sac called Fratlandis by students due to its proximity to Frat Row, also boasted poor insulation and ventilation system that allowed tenants to hear everybody talking throughout the house. He said he and his roommates were used to the noises and eventually learned to tune them out. The neighborhood, Cole added, boasted a very active party life which carried over into the house. "A lot of students are very familiar with the inside of the home," he described. "At parties, people would hop the fence and just walk away if the cops came."
Are you getting closer, Chief?
Okay, now before we get into some of the highlights from the media, again, these are just the highlights since we spoke last. These aren't the full interviews. I've just clipped together the main points in these interviews that I found interesting or important. Just to discuss a little bit of some of the stuff you guys are saying in chat in Jack D. His aunt coming out speaking for him, it's hard because it almost makes it seem like whoever did this is sort of framing Jack D as a possible suspect because, the calls made to Jack, I'm not convinced that it was made by the girls. I think that somebody could definitely have been using their phone at that point. I don't know if that's the case because now that we have this audio with them saying, "What did you say to Adam?" "Oh, I told Adam everything." Did a chain of events start from Adam knowing something? You know what I mean? So maybe they were trying to get a hold of Jack D to do damage control. You know what I mean? So that is still a possibility, but I still feel it's a possibility maybe they weren't even making those phone calls. Again, we don't know exactly because we don't know the exact time of death for any of the victims. We only know the window of 3 to 4 a.m. We don't know exactly when it was. So if that car was seen on the camera and it is the car they're looking for, that was at 3:45 in the morning. So was that before or after? If that's a suspect, you know what I mean? They keep saying that whoever's in that white car definitely has information that they need to break the case. I mean, those were the exact words. However, I just think, with Jack D, I just feel like there has been a lot of suspicion around him, because I'll show in this too. In one of, I think, the second press conferences, they list off the people who they believe are not involved in the crime, and they didn't list Jack D. So again, that was just a second press conference. Things might have changed in their investigation and stuff like that. And just because they say we don't believe this person is involved in the crime right now doesn't mean that they're cleared 100%. They can always revisit it and all that. So while I do think, like, I don't know if I think Jack D is the perpetrator, I can't remove anybody off like my list because we just don't have enough information yet still. So unfortunately, I just feel like if Jack D is just pulled into this, like, it's just unfortunate for him. And there's just some things that just look strange. Again, the body language between Steve Goncalves and Jack D, like at the memorial service. I've clipped that and I've added that in here and slowed it down. I know you guys have seen it. You guys have actually even pointed it out to me and said that, watch the way that Steve looks at Jack. It's interesting. And so I watched it, and it definitely is. Could it be just that Steve was annoyed that Jack didn't speak at the memorial? Maybe he wanted him to say something about his daughter. Maybe that's why he kind of gave him a weird look. But I don't know. And if I mispronounce Goncalves or Goncalves, I'm very sorry. For the longest time, I've been calling him Kaylee's father and Steve. So, and trust me, I understand my last name is 11 letters and nobody can pronounce it right. So totally get that. So yeah, we'll have to revisit the strange body language with Jack D in this. And then we also have the audio of Kaylee's family standing up for Jack. Now, a lot of people have said, yeah, exactly. Diane, a lot of people are just really fixated on the look he gave Jack. So we are going to take a look at that here. But again, it could be maybe he was just upset that he didn't speak at the memorial for his daughter. I don't know, but I do know that the family has stood by Jack from day one. They've come out and said, we stand by him 1000%. They're wasting their time on Jack, which has told us that, okay, so they actually spent some time on Jack, which is good, but it's interesting. And it almost makes me think the same thing I was thinking about law enforcement. Are they saying things so that the perpetrator thinks that they're headed in a different direction? Like, are Kaylee's family supporting Jack because it's just tactic and really they're looking into Jack? I'm sorry, but I have to keep that in mind as a possibility. Tony is feeling, I don't feel there is any love between Steve and JD, in my opinion. And you're not the only one with that opinion. So we're definitely going to look into that. And like I said, are they coming out with so much support for Jack as sort of like a decoy, like, yeah, we support him so that Jack feels comfortable, Again, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. But I'm sorry, but you're the ex-boyfriend of only, what was it? It was either 3 weeks or 3 months. Both are still very, very recent for a breakup, in my opinion. They were together for 5 years, I think I heard. So, it's just, unfortunately, it's strange timing for this to happen to Kaylee so soon after the breakup. I'm sorry, guys, but I have to leave everybody up on the table. And we'll just be looking through that scene with Steve and Jack anyways.
To finding the killer or killers?
We're continuing the investigation. We're continuing to push on. We have, like I said from the very beginning, I'm very confident that we will have a conclusion to this. A timeline, that's going to be as things develop, and we're following up on all those leads.
Now, he used the word, we're going to find a conclusion to this, so that's good. Tommy says it's not Jack D. And again, like I've said over and over, I'm not set on any theory. I don't have any theory. I don't have even somebody to say that I don't think they're involved. So I can't say 100% on anything, but I do understand that there's a lot of people who just are not buying the Jack D thing. And like I said, maybe whoever did this has like set it up so that people do think maybe it is Jack D, like framed him in a way. So all this stuff I'm taking in consideration, you know what I mean? But I appreciate everyone's comments in chat because it's just a think tank, and you guys help me kind of sort things out in my own mind. Jesse Lynn said, everyone is a suspect until someone is in cuffs. I mean, yeah, we don't even have like any type of description. And like somebody, I think Derek said in chat, hope they get all that DNA sorted out. And that's something that we've been talking about from day one. And after seeing the body cam footage of house parties at that place, you know, it definitely is going to look like a task to sort through of, okay, well, your DNA was found here. What night were you there? Why, you know, when's the last time you've been to that house? Or we needed to check your data to see the last time you pinged and blah, blah, blah. I mean, this is going to be a process. Exactly, Corey. Different perspectives. That's what we need. And Tommy says, I say it's a loner neighbor who stared into the house, uncovered windows, who is still there. I mean, definitely possible. And as far as DNA, you know, we've had experts that we've played on this channel that say, you know, I really hope they're asking people when they interview them, like, do you mind if we take a swab? Or, you know, people, we know that one neighbor willingly gave his DNA. I'm hoping that they're asking and obtaining so much DNA that it's just taking a minute. And also, you know, I don't know if you guys watch Bill Cannon from Police Off the Cuff, but, you know, he's been on his channel and on Duty Ron, and he's spoken about his experience as a homicide detective. He's retired now, but, you know, he's got like a lot of good insight, and he's spoken about the task and maybe the possibility that they've gathered DNA serendipitously. Is that a word? Serendipitously, or pretty much, you know, like if you offer somebody in a interview, a police interview, like, hey, you want something to drink? We can grab you a water or whatever. And then once they leave or hand that bottle over or the cup over, then the cops are able to gather the DNA or extract any DNA from that person without them knowing. Undercover, exactly, Miss Walls. I'm glad you understand me. All right, so that's just something that I hope is being done. And obviously, like we've said in so many cases, the science is going to point us in the direction we need to be. Surreptitiously, yes, Jesse. Thank you so much, and I can't believe you knew how to spell that. All right, guys. So again, let me just carry on with these interviews and these clips, and we'll pause and talk. And hello, Daylena. Merry Christmas. It's good to see you. Thank you so much. And you guys all have a good 2023 as well. Hi, Joy Catcher. Good to see you. And yes, I agree. My moderators are awesome, Diane. Thank you for acknowledging that. And I just want them to know how much I appreciate them. Hi, Green Eyes. We're just going over some stuff that has taken place since we last spoke on Wednesday. So we started with the interview by Jack D's aunt that she gave, pretty much saying that he's heartbroken. And we're just going into some of the statements by law enforcement and all that. So we're just going to work through all this stuff. And thank you guys so much for being here. Candace, I will check out that email for sure. And also, since we're paused and on the subject of emails, I wanted to thank Seth Huston for sending the holiday Cash App that he sent. I don't know if he's listening right now. Usually he follows me on replay, but I just wanted to give a shout out and thank you to him and everyone else for all your support and for liking the videos, because that's all I really ask for, and everything else is just generous and more than enough. And hello, Alicia. Good to see you.
We are interviewing a lot of people, and we're gathering a lot of information, and we're putting that puzzle together, and we're painting a picture, and we're trying to put that all together.
One thing I did notice since we last spoke is law enforcement doing these interviews, they keep using the term putting the pieces together. We're gaining a bigger picture of what occurred that night. Like the Idaho State Police guy, Aaron Snell, said the same thing. And I'm just like, they have like a script that they've like decided each week. Today, we're going to talk about how we're piecing together the puzzle and painting a picture. But it was just like the same thing from the chief. But, that's good as long as they're painting a grander picture.
We secured the scene quickly. We called in the state police. We did our due diligence in getting the things that we needed to do to, have this be a solid case all the way through. We called in the state lab to collect evidence, and I believe that it was the initial stuff that we started and how we did things that will help bring this to a conclusion.
To this, he said that there was nothing out of the.
So again, this is from News Nation. This guy, Alex, has been on scene since this crime started. And I just seen somebody in chat mention something about Ethan getting in a fight with somebody from the frat party. And I know that that's been a rumor going around. But I find it interesting that this person in chat just now mentioned steroids, because while I said I don't have a set theory, I do have theories in my head that I've been bouncing around with. And maybe the usage of steroids in a college kid is a possibility. Again, I don't know. And I haven't really spoken about certain theories because I don't really have much basis for it. But I do want to speak on the steroid thing because somebody mentioned it in chat. And if there is a paper trail of the frat being connected to steroid use, I would really love to see that. I'm not saying that that's true. Like I said, everybody listening on replay and all that, I just seen it in chat. But I do think, I mean, that's something I thought in my head, because I think about the age of these kids. If it is a college kid, let's say it's not somebody who's a townie and all that. If it is a college person, all I could think in my head was like, okay, well, most boys that or guys that age, they like to work out. I know people definitely toy around with steroids. Yeah, I agree. Corey, that, I mean, when we talk about rage and how the coroner said whoever did this must have been pretty angry, in my head, and something I haven't spoken out loud until now, I thought, I wonder if there was some young adult boy using steroids and something set him off. But I mean, water loving dog said, aren't most frats hotbeds for steroid use? I don't have the exact statistics or feeling that way, but I will say that this has been a theory that I've had in my head that I hadn't said out loud because there is absolutely no evidence to point towards steroid use. But I will say that when the coroner spoke about rage and just being that angry, I did think in my head, that is definitely a possibility. These guys misusing it or something like that. I definitely think that that's a possibility. So, like I said, we don't have anything to really back that up as far as evidence, but I do think that, maybe it's somebody younger, gym scene, like most of them are in, and then maybe steroid use. But again, just a theory. Like I said, there's nothing to back that up as far as evidence, but somebody mentioned it in chat. So I figured I, would pause it and kind of elaborate more. Athletics points to steroids. I mean, yeah, it definitely is a possibility. Tony said, I feel something happened at the frat house. That started everything, in my opinion. See, I definitely think that that's possible too. And then I think, but Ethan didn't live there. So was that wrench or was that a hiccup in the murder plot? Ethan and Xana heard something. So they kind of walk out their room and they run into the perpetrator, and it's like a collateral damage situation, So I'm like, did something happen at the corner club with the girls and Adam, and I told Adam everything? Or is it, like you said, Tony, something happened at the frat house, and then that's what kind of started this escalation and stuff? But let's carry on. I'm glad we kind of paused a little bit and spoke about the steroid stuff. Again, it's definitely a possibility. So yeah, I agree, Green Eyes. That's the thing, is we can't take it off the table, even though, like I said, there's nothing to really hi Bedrock Workshop, it's good to see you. Even though there's nothing really to kind of show us that could be a possibility, I do think that okay, well, these guys, they could be the workout type, and they could be messing around with steroids. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. And yeah, the frat aspect, draws concern because there have been other cases where crimes have been committed and it involves these fraternities, and the frats stand by each other and they don't turn on each other. So that has always been something that we've talked about here and known that it could be a possibility that maybe their brotherhood or whatever, even the sororities, I'm sorry, but they're not off the table either. Just because everyone's been saying it's a male, it's a male, it's a male. I mean, I do think it's a male, but we don't have enough to really say 100%.
Ordinary that night, that right now, or in that moment, that it was just an innocent conversation. Of course, the frats were bumping on a Saturday night, but here at the house, it was quiet and he saw nothing out of the usual. Yeah, actually, the rideshare driver said that he knows Adam. He knows he's a bartender, but Adam was not brought up once at all during that conversation. Again, no conversations about boys, drama, or any trouble. And as far as what the girls were feeling, he said they were not fearful. They weren't skittish in any way. But back to the food truck, also, I asked him about that. Hey, you were right there. Did you see anything out of the ordinary there? And he said, no, it was a Saturday night at the food truck. A bunch of college kids hanging out, ordering their food before heading home. I brought up another person a lot of people have speculated about, the hoodie guy he's been referenced as. He said he didn't see that guy. He has no indication that anything was wrong there at the food truck, and certainly during that entire rideshare home, no indication that anything was wrong there, rather. I asked him point blank, hey, are you the guy who drove Kaylee and Maddie home that night? And to his credit, he was very transparent, very honest, very open, almost immediately with me. Well, he said that it was actually a rather innocent conversation from the beginning. And really, he said that was the center of their conversation. The entire 5-minute ride home was about their mac and cheese carbonara that they were planning on splitting when they got back to the house. He said that he's picked them up in the past, not only these two girls, but Xana as well. And he said that in the past, they've talked about boys and drama and college life, but not this time around. It was just a very normal, innocent conversation about their food and how they were going to share it when they got home.
And as we see here on the visual, they're smiling, they're taking a Snapchat or whatever she's doing here with Maddie, like recording. They're smiling and happy. Sorry. And they go into the car, and the rideshare guy is saying nothing was out of the norm. So can we conclude that maybe that whole thing about what did you tell Adam and all that, like, wasn't as serious? Because if they're, again, we know from CDT enhancing the audio that, they spoke at the food truck right there about sharing their meal with each other, like, I'll share with you. It seemed like they weren't in any type of like alerted mood of like, wow, you know what? Like, I can't believe that just happened. And what are we going to do? They had an appetite still. So it must not have been that stressful. I mean, for me, I know not everybody's the same. Some people eat during stress, but it just seemed like what the rideshare guy is saying, like nothing was out of the norm in their interview. Again, maybe he's just telling the media that. We don't have his exact interview. We just have hearsay through the reporters. But it seems like maybe they weren't really in some sort of drama situation, And that's the thing, Paul, is a lot of people think that what did you tell Adam is serious. Kaylee is distraught when she says it. She definitely does sound stressed. And then Maddie answers, and even Maddie is like, I told him everything. It's just it can be so many different things. Like, was Adam acting differently at the bar because of something? And they're like, what did you say to him? You know what I mean? So it's just, I don't know. That was Kaylee asking Jack, and it was Jack who said, I told Adam everything, not Maddie. Hello, True Crime Snoopy.
This is a complex case. What I can tell you is this case is not going cold. We're still building that picture. Our end goal is to bring somebody to justice.
To the holidays, we want to take time away. We just want to relax, and knowing that those officers are there and they're the best of the best, it's definitely comforting. We're struggling. I'm trying to do everything in my power to help them, and we're trying to collaborate with them.
I meant to say earlier, because I think it was when Brian Enton spoke with the chief. He said, "Are you any closer to catching or finding the killer or killers?" Like said killer and then followed it up with or killers. And then the chief answered him, but the chief didn't say, "We don't believe that there's more than one killer." So I found that interesting, the fact that he didn't say to Brian Enton, "Oh, no, we don't think it's more than one." So maybe it was nothing. Maybe he was just answering the one half of the question of how close are you to finding the killer? And he didn't bother saying that we don't believe that there's more than one. But I found it interesting that Brian Enton said, "Are you close to finding the killer or the killers?" And the chief didn't correct him and say, "We don't think it's more than one." I don't know. Maybe it's nothing. They've also mentioned they're looking for the occupant or the occupants of that white vehicle. So is it something where they're thinking like it is possible that it was more than one person, maybe not more than one killer, but maybe it had taken planning with more than one person to kind of pull this off? I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are.
A much clearer picture of what occurred that night. Anybody that might know the location of that Hyundai that was used that evening, we think the occupants of that vehicle have important information to provide to us.
The thing that you have to do is pull together all the information. That means you look at the forensic results, the lab results, you look at crime scene photographs, you review all the investigative reports, and it's through the analysis of blending all that together that gives you the information about how well planned it was or not well planned. It gives you an idea of post-offense behavior, which right now is of critical importance. It also gives you information about the offender's personality. So, for example, if this offender went in at that time of the morning in a house that was occupied by at least 6 people, I mean, that's a very high-risk behavior and high.
So again, she is a former FBI profiler. A lot of good insight here, speaking about, the risk that this perpetrator took. Obviously, he wasn't afraid to take that risk. However, we do have to take in consideration that Ethan apparently didn't live there. So was this person taking the risk but not realizing that there was a man in there? That's something that we have to keep in mind too. Because we don't know who the target was. As much as we like to think we'd know that maybe it was Kaylee, we don't know that. We know that the father has said that Kaylee's injuries were worse than Maddie, but we don't know about everyone else. So while he's taking the risk of entering the house with all those people, he might not have realized that there was a man in there. But back to a comment I seen in chat real quick, which was why I paused it. Okay. Flying Hedgehog is mentioning the roommate who unalived herself. They said, Flying Hedgehog said, maybe the girls told Adam what really happened to Hannah. And the thing is, I haven't dug too much into that old roommate who unalived themselves, but I do know that it's something that the detectives are looking into, and that it's unfortunately probably been a task for them to kind of pull that up too, because it may or may not be related. It might not have anything to do with anything. But I do think that that is an interesting thought, that maybe the old roommate is a part of whatever happened or something. You know what I mean? Maybe it's connected. But again, I'm not saying it is, but it's something that is being looked at by the detectives. I'm positive on that.
A high-risk personality is not just going to be high risk in the middle of a homicide. They're going to be high risk in other things that they do outside of this homicide. So I think as much as law enforcement can give the public bits and pieces of this offender's personality, the more likely that they will be able to identify a possible suspect.
I think she's also insinuating that, this person might have like a speeding ticket, or, if they're pretty much going through this risky behavior of entering the house with all those people in there to commit the crime that it seemed like was premeditated, he must be risky in other areas in his life. So, speeding tickets, I don't know, like daredevil type stuff, possibly.
Well, based just on public source information, what I would I would say is that there was someone or multiple people in that house that were the focus of the offender. And that can be borne out in terms of what the injury pattern was to these victims.
So the injury pattern is sort of like what Steve was saying with Maddie and Kaylee. Kaylee's were significantly worse than Maddie's, according to Steve. Again, we don't have the autopsy reports. We don't have that verified by law enforcement, but the father has spoken to Maddie's family, and I'm certain that they've kind of corroborated like what they know. But regardless, we don't know exactly the injuries in comparison to Ethan and Xana. So when they came out first and foremost saying this was targeted, they must have some sort of feeling like they know who the target was. As much as we know that they've kind of said things and then retracted, I still think that that is one thing that they might have an idea of.
You have one or two victims whose injuries are much more severe and or different from the other victims, and then you still have the two surviving victims. That would tell me that once the offender got to the victims that they wanted to focus on, that they were able to complete the crime.
And the other thing too is I want to know, were the surviving roommates texting any of the victims throughout the night? Now, the surviving roommates were told, or they told us we're home by 1 a.m. Now, again, going back to the whole everyone's innocent until proven guilty, and we're just theorizing and speculating. I've always found it sort of strange that they claim to have heard party noises, but chalked it up to be nothing, and they locked their door. Media has been reporting over and over that they didn't hear anything, but that's not what they had said. If you look at first reports with the roommates, it did come out that they said that they heard something, but they chalked it up to being partying noises. So they locked their door and went to bed. But then media has just been reporting and repeating over and over. The roommates claim they didn't hear anything. And that's not what was being said. It sounded good though, as media keeps reporting it, but initially they did say that they had heard something, but they chalked it up to be nothing. And thank you, Green Eyes, for becoming a member. We're so glad to have you here. So I want to know, were the surviving roommates texting any of them that night? And I also think it's strange. I'm just going to throw this out there. I'm not saying it's anything, but it was the weekend before Thanksgiving break. And I just feel like them both being home by 1 a.m. and behind their doors with the doors shut and locked, I just find that strange. When I was around that age, we wouldn't even go out until 11, almost midnight. The bars stay open till 2, do a little pre-gaming and get down there. So I've always thought it was strange that they didn't come out of their room when they heard noises. And I find it strange that they were home so early on the weekend before the Thanksgiving break.
Exit the house. So it becomes a matter of who really was the focus of the attack. I would say that it's likely that this is someone who is following the investigation both on TV and online to understand where are the investigators in this case. I would also say there's probably leakage, and leakage is just like a leaky faucet, that this offender may be talking about the case just like everyone else is. And they may be saying things that would be critical of law enforcement. Oh, they're never going to solve this case. And their leakage could also include comments about, well, the victims brought this on themselves.
So hear how she's saying not only does she think that they're following the investigation through the media, she's also saying that they might victim blame. So I'm not going to say their names. I want chat to say it or replay viewers to say it first. But I feel like there's already been a few people, neighbors, who have spoken out and said things that are just inappropriate or almost victim blaming. One of the guys did an interview with Daily Mail early on from the grub truck, said some things about the girls and how the guys were flirting with them or whatever at the bars, and how they were so drunk or something like that. And then there was a neighbor who came out and has been making inappropriate posts on TikTok and stuff like, exactly, Ray Bird. Exactly. And when I heard her say that, that they'll victim blame, all I could think of was like, oh boy, I remember it a few weeks ago. Exactly, guys. You know who I'm talking about. Yep, sort of the spirit he did. So there has been 2 people that I can think of. What did Jeremy say that was sort of victim blaming? I'm curious, Jesse, because I do agree with the other 2, but I mean, I'm curious just to refresh my memory. But either way, isn't that a bit alarming? Yeah, exactly. That chef has made my mind spin. Exactly. It's just complete red flags from more than one person. Like when she's saying they're following the investigation and they might actually be victim blaming, all I could think was like, oh, great. Well, we already have like more than one person doing that. Good morning, Titanium Built and Florida Bass Fishing. It's good to see you guys. So anyways, just keep that in mind because I thought that was interesting. And I was like, oh boy, didn't he say that everyone could see in their house? Oh yeah, he did say stuff like that.
So you compile that with a group of personality traits. So this is an offender who's a high-risk offender. This is someone who is very experienced with that knife and took it with him. That knife is very important to this offender. And this offender is practiced with this knife. People that know this offender know that this is someone that's has anger, terrible anger issues, is very impulsive, is a very revengeful person, most likely, and now is they're aware of the knife and the fact that even before the murders, this person probably spoke about this knife and how skilled they were at it. And now you blend in their interest in the case as well as their criticism of law enforcement and their victim blaming. Now, is that going to point to the person down the street? No, not necessarily, but we only need one person to come forward. One person who knows that this could very likely be a very viable suspect in this case.
So while I just played some of the more recent interviews and stuff, we're going to go through and just do a little bit of a refresh of the facts. And thank you, everyone, for being here.
Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Morgan were at a local bar and were later at a food truck in downtown Moscow. They arrived home at approximately 1:45 a.m. on the morning of November 13th. Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle were at the Sigma Chi house before also arriving home at approximately 1:45 a.m. 2 surviving roommates were also out in the community, and they returned home at approximately 1 a.m. and did not wake up until later that morning. On the morning of November 13th, at 11:58 a.m., a 911 call was placed to the Whitcomb Dispatch Center reporting an unconscious person. The call originated from inside the residence and was made from the phone of one of the surviving roommates. Moscow Police Department officers responded and located 4 victims, 2 on the 2nd floor and 2 on the 3rd floor. We do not believe the following individuals are involved in this crime.
So while he goes off and lists this, keep in mind, this is the 2nd press conference. So this is November. We do not believe the following individuals are involved in this crime at this time. So like I said earlier in the stream, Jack D, again, I'm not saying that he's the perp, but I will say that I found it interesting to refresh these facts and realize that Jack D was not listed. Now, is that tactic? Is that so, because we've thrown around the idea maybe the perp is trying to frame Jack D, you know? So is this sort of a means for law enforcement to kind of play with the real perp and let the real perp think for a second while they're watching the press conference that they're looking into Jack D? You know, like it could be both things. And that's what we have to keep in mind. Like maybe he's not listed as tactic to throw the perp off, or maybe he's not listed because at this point they were kind of still interested in him. I don't know.
The 2 surviving roommates. A male seen at the grub truck food vendor downtown, specifically wearing a white hoodie. A private party who provided rides home to Kaylee and Madison in the early morning hour of November 13th. Additionally, the identity of the 911 caller and the 911 call have not been released. So any information out there is speculation about that. Investigators are aware that multiple phone calls from Madison and Kaylee's phone were made to a male subject.
So all that's mentioned in the second press conference about Jack is they're aware that these calls were made to him. Now, is this tactic? Are they saying this so that the perp is watching and they're like, oh, good, good, good. So they're definitely looking into Jack. And then remember, we thrown out the idea that when the family, Steve and his wife, Kaylee's parents spoke about Jack and they said, we stand by him 1,000%. You know, was that, there's just so many avenues that this could go. And that's the thing, JW. A lot of people are still keeping Jack D on the table. And again, I want to make it clear that we don't have anyone that they've given us a description of the suspect or anything. So anything's possible at this point.
Who did make that 911 call to police, and how did that person make the gruesome discovery?
It's an essential part of the case. Whoever discovered the scene first, whoever initiated the contact with law enforcement is all part of understanding what occurred and the timeline of what occurred.
Their story is they heard partying, they heard noise, but they just, as usual, said, you know, there's partying going on, they locked the door.
So that is to reiterate, again, these were just refreshing some of the statements in the beginning of the case made. So while media has been reporting that the surviving roommates claim they didn't hear anything, that is not what the initial reports were claiming. The initial reports said that they heard something, but they didn't think much of it, and they locked their doors. Then all of a sudden, media started saying the surviving roommates didn't hear anything. And how did they not hear anything? Everyone hears something in that house. And we spoke to an old tenant who used to live there, and he said that you can hear everything, blah, blah, blah. They never said that they couldn't hear anything. So I just want everyone to know that the surviving roommates, for one, have never even came out publicly and spoken. For two, we've only gotten hearsay from them. And the initial hearsay reports were that they heard something, but they didn't think much of it, and they locked their door. So just keep that in mind, that they never said that they didn't hear anything.
Investigators have learned that a physical struggle took place before the murders happened.
And now that little clip was something that was found out earlier on too. That it just stated investigators have learned that before a physical struggle took place before the murders happened. So how did the investigators discover that a physical struggle took place? The defensive wounds, because we've heard more than one had defensive wounds. But then we've also heard they were likely asleep. So it's just all over the place. And we have Steve, who came out saying that there must have been a hell of a battle that took place downstairs. And he never retracted that statement, although he did retract and explain who he was calling cowards in that interview. He never said, like, that was misquoted from me. So I'm thinking that, you know, there really was a struggle that took place. And people have speculated that Ethan was found outside his bedroom. We just don't know that 100%, but it's a possibility.
Investigators are already talking to them and trying to get from them everything they can possibly remember about what they may have seen, what they may have heard, what their activities were, what they know about the activities of their housemates.
So here, first off, hello, Mike, and Merry Christmas. He said, I'm so tired of media saying, what's the knife? Hold on. Sorry. Chat is moving the comment. What this knife meant to the killer. The killer wanted no noise in anyone in that state whom owns a knife as that style knife. So much it's in a lake now. LOL. Yeah, I definitely don't think they're holding on to the knife, like, just to be caught and then, like, look for it under their mattress. So here is the body language that you guys have pointed out to me, and, I my moderator, Allison, I don't know if she's here this morning, but she helped me locate this and slow it down. So they went up there to speak on behalf of Kaylee, obviously, and he looks over to Jack, who's out of sight of the camera. I'm not sure, I'm wondering, did he talk to the camera person and say, I don't want to be in frame? Because there is no camera shot of him except for walking off the stage. So I don't know. He says, do you want to say something? And Jack says no, apparently, because he says, okay. And he like looks over back to his family. So that's sort of like, maybe, in my opinion, it could go two ways. He's not happy with Jack D for whatever reason, or he's not happy with Jack D because he's like, really, you're not going to speak, for my daughter at her memorial? Like, you know what I mean? Because Maddie's boyfriend spoke on behalf of their relationship and stuff. So I just am thinking like this could go in a few different directions, pretty much. Maybe this look simply just has to do with the fact that like he's kind of disappointed Jack decided not to speak, or is it more? A lot of people thinking it's more. Yeah, Sweetie Pie. See, that's the thing, Sweetie Pie. A lot of people are thinking that the dad can hardly look at Jack D here. And I feel like I forgot to pause it when Steve was speaking in his latest interview. He said something about we're working with law enforcement the best we can, or something about like working alongside of law enforcement. And I was just thinking like, and plus we've heard him say over and over, I can't just sit back. I can't just, I need to do, he wants to be proactive in this. You know what I mean? Like he's hiring the lawyer and the private investigator. Like he wants to have some sort of control in this. And I don't blame him, but I'm also wondering if like, when he says like, we're working with them, if like he meant something in the sense of like, maybe they're having them say certain things like publicly, like we stand behind Jack D 1000%. You know what I mean? Like maybe law enforcement has said, show your support for him. We don't want him to think that you don't support him. Again, guys, I'm just speculating. I am just speculating. I'm not saying that that's what's going on, guys. So just leave that out there. Maybe this look that he gives them is because there's something more and he just can't hide it. You know what I mean? But as we play this, you're going to hear their first initial comments about Jack. So I've kind of like edited it together so we can watch the body language and then we can listen to their initial reports about Jack.
All right. I think that's everything. Is that everything? You want to say something?
Oh, gosh.
We love Jack. Absolutely love Jack. We stand behind Jack 1,000%. Jack was Kaylee's boyfriend for many years. They just recently broke up. There was no animosity at all. It was a breakup on Kaylee's point. It was not, they still talked every single day. Kaylee just thought that she needed a little break. They were on ends of getting back together. Kaylee talked to Jack the whole time. She was here for that week and a half.
One of her last messages, she reached out to Jack and said, Jack, get back to me. And he didn't. She goes, we share a dog together, which they did. She's like, you need to reach out to me. So
please come over. Please come over. She was wanting Jack to come over. Jack is not, they're wasting their time with Jack. And Jack is just as distraught as we are.
Now, let me play it again. And Marilyn, I've been saying that Kaylee was moving on. She was about to leave. Like, they've been together for 5 years. If they weren't married or engaged at that point, in my opinion, she wasn't going to marry or be engaged to him. Again, we don't know that 100%. And I've gotten some slack for saying stuff like that. But I just feel like there is a possibility that, like the mother said, it was on Kaylee's terms that they broke up. Okay, so why are we supposed to assume that Jack was just completely fine with it all? You know what I mean? And look at him right here. As soon as he gets a moment to look at Steve, he wants approval from Steve here. After he admitted, or after he had said he wasn't going to speak, he knows that that was the wrong thing to say to Steve. And as soon as he's like looking over at him, Jack's got to like make eyes with him because Jack wants to know, like, are we cool or we're still good, right? Is this just because Steve is upset he didn't speak on behalf of his daughter at the memorial, or is it more? I really think that we have to keep both possibilities in mind. It could just be he's just kind of like disappointed or salty, like, really, like, you're not going to be up here speaking about your love for my daughter. All right. Or is it more? You know what I mean? And is it them speaking out, firstly saying we stand behind him 1000%? Is that just tactic? Again, guys, we don't have a suspect. We don't have a description of a suspect. We don't have anything to really go off of. So unfortunately, my head just bounces around to different theories. But let me just rewind this again and just watch as they walk away off the stage. Steve, turns his back immediately, even though his wife is behind him. He can't even bear to walk off with his wife and Jack. He walks off with his son, puts his hand on his son, leaving them in the dust. And then, in my opinion, it almost makes it seem like Jack almost leaves the mom as soon as he can. It seems like Jack wanted to run off that stage very quickly. But guys, I mean, there's a lot of people there. There's mainstream media. Like, we have to play all this in our minds of, what's going through Jack's head. If he's completely innocent, then, I hate to even have to go down this avenue, but it's just, you guys pointed out the body language to me. I never had seen it, and then I'd seen it and I was like, that is interesting. So I'm just bringing it to you guys, and I'm curious your guys' thoughts. So if you're watching on replay, comment down below. Give me a like either way. I appreciate it. So let's watch this again, and I'm just going to check chat because I haven't had a minute to look, guys.
We love Jack. Absolutely love Jack. We stand behind Jack 1000%. Jack was Kaylee's boyfriend for many years. They just recently broke up. There was no animosity at all. It was a breakup on Kaylee's point. It was not, they still talked every single day. Kaylee just thought that she needed a little break.
I need to pause it too, because I agree with this comment on the screen. Jack looks so different compared to photos we normally see of him. And I was thinking the same thing. And honestly, that was one of the reasons why I went down the idea of steroids. Because again, I'm not saying that that's the truth, but I was just thinking like, oh man, he looks so like, I'm sorry, but he looks like a 16-year-old boy, kind of like in some of the photos. And I was like, oh, there's no way he took on 4 people. Like I was just looking at the photos that the media had put out there of him, and Daily Mail had put out, and like that were on her Instagram. And it was, but they've been together for 5 years, and somebody at 17 looks completely different than, in their early 20s. So, but I 100% agree with this comment. I did not expect him to be that tall, and I did not expect him to kind of be like beefier, not beefier, because I can't really get a good like imagery of him, but he definitely looked bigger than I thought he did in the photos. So I will say that that was another kind of thing I was thinking about, like, wonder if he was working out a lot or maybe using steroids. Again, guys, I have no evidence to support that, but I do want to say that that was definitely something in my mind. And I do think that it was interesting to see. And no, Henry, that's not what's going on. So I won't even acknowledge you in chat.
They were on ends of getting back together. Kaylee talked to Jack the whole time she was here for that week and a half.
One of her last messages, she reached out to Jack and said,
that's a good point, Tony. He also could have been angry. Jack never returned the calls, and he was disgusted at Jack D for that, as well as suspicious of him, in my opinion. And this was earlier on. This was weeks ago, guys. So yeah, something going on here could just be, misplaced anger on behalf of, just a series of events that took place. Even the sisters, CDT has done a really good job clipping pieces of what the sisters said about their surviving roommates. And the sisters seemed kind of like a certain angry tone towards the fact that they apparently didn't leave their rooms when they heard something or didn't think it was a big deal. So there has been some body language that's kind of come off of even the sister about the surviving roommates. Now we have this body language of the father in Jack D. So it's just been like so many different things that like have been in our faces that we've been over analyzing.
Jack, get back to me. And he didn't. She goes, we share a dog together, which they did. She's like, you need to reach out to me. So
Please come over. Please come over. She was wanting Jack to come over. Jack is not. They're wasting their time with Jack. And
Notice how Jack, again, I'm sorry, but I have to analyze. Jack doesn't even like walk off really with the mother, like not with his arm on her, not with anything. They just kind of like depart like separately, but together. I don't know.
And Jack is just as distraught as we are.
How did you say to Adam? Like, I told Adam everything.
That's a good point, Derek. I want to read that. At that age and being a guy, it's easier to win over the mom because dads are more skeptical of the daughters and boyfriends, just my opinion. And I definitely agree that it could just be like that look that he gave Jack could just be nothing. You know what I mean? But I had to bring it here because you guys pointed it out to me, and I do find it interesting to kind of look at that and then also play their audio of their undivided support for him. All right, so like I had mentioned earlier in chat, we're going to analyze this food truck footage. We've never gone through it in the way that I've wanted to here, and I've just noticed things recently and early on that I've just never had a chance to really bring to you guys because there were other things to focus on. But I'm revisiting this, and I just want to talk through it quick with you guys and just point out some stuff. And again, I have to put this disclaimer because just because we obviously don't know who the suspect is. We don't know much about this investigation. So there are a series of events that took place that night, including this food truck imagery that is just unsettling if you look at it from different perspectives. Like people thought the hoodie guy looked sketchy. Then we realized he's not a suspect and etc. So everyone's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, and we're just going to analyze this fairly. So bear with me while I go through and point out some stuff that I found weird. Again, I just want to say that it could be absolutely nothing, and it could just be us overanalyzing. But either way, I want to go through it with you guys. So thank you for being here. So obviously they arrive.
Hello. Hi.
As they're arriving, and I know you guys have seen this guy in the jersey. He's seen, no, so this is two side-by-sides of what the going on in the one view of the camera and then the girls at the food truck window. So this is synced up simultaneously. Look at Joe and look at Jersey Guy. Both see them arrive. And I know that you guys have gone through this with other channels, but I just have never done it with you guys here. So I hope you guys stick around and listen to me break this down. But they both watch them arrive, and you just can't deny it. So they're spotted as they approach.
Welcome back.
Then Jersey Guy more than once is looking over his shoulder. He kind of paces back and forth on his feet, and he's just, looking over his shoulder. Joe has a clear view of them through the group that's talking. And there is a group of girls arriving behind the Jersey Guy while he's looking over his shoulder at them.
Like the
And again, he's kind of looking back and forth and pacing, and then decides, he's going to wave to them when he'd seen them arrive immediately, and he didn't choose to do that whole like wave, like, oh, hey.
The car, but not.
So after they've been standing there for a while and he's kind of looked over his shoulder, looked around, blah, 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 then he decides, oh, I'm going to give him a wave.
Oh, yep. So what you want to do is we'll actually do this.
So even though Kaylee or Maddie walked over there, she runs into the trash can trying to weave in and out. I feel like she like slightly bumped into Joe, but then like just kept walking. I don't know. It was almost like they had like a little like brush, but it wasn't anything like aggressive. But look, she hugs him and she's wanting to walk back, like obviously to get back with Kaylee, and Joe just stands right in the way. After she had ran into the trash can already to get over there, he stands right near the trash can, knowing she's probably going to turn around and walk back to Kaylee. Just found that interesting. Just found it weird. Again, I'm not saying it means anything, but something I noticed.
Cool. Thank you.
Absolutely.
How many more do you need? That's the second one? Awesome.
Dawn's mom. Oh, wait. Yeah. One.
So Jersey guy does that little sleep motion, right? And again, this camera view is simultaneously synced together. So the girls are there, and while Maddie's got her back towards them, Jersey guy signals the sleep body language. I'll rewind it real quick. And I'm like, who is he doing that to? Because it's not to Joe V. And then I look over in the corner, and this whole time, like we were looking at before, hoodie guy is there, right? So hold on. Look at Jersey guy. Mind you, Jersey guy, I believe. Hold on.
Cool. Thank you.
Absolutely.
How many more do you need? That's the second one? Awesome.
Watch Jersey guy.
Oh, wait. Yeah.
Sleep. What is that about? Looks over his shoulder. Got his phone out. Jersey guy.
Here.
So after Jersey guy does that little sleep motion, I'm assuming it was to hoodie guy. So I look over at hoodie guy, and after he gets that sleep signal, looks like hoodie guy gets on his phone. And his face is lit up. Hoodie guy's face is lit up with the phone. So I don't know. I just noticed that once he does that sleep thing, I look over at hoodie guy, and hoodie guy whips his phone out. So let me rewind it real quick. And Jersey guy keeps looking over his shoulder.
That's the second one? Awesome.
Dawn's mom. Oh, wait. Yeah.
Sleep. Now watch hoodie guy on the right screen.
Maybe
Takes his phone out.
It's right here.
Face is
And then
lighting up on
Don't
his
forget to
phone.
move the spoon.
The Jersey guy's on his phone. Again, we'll watch it again. Jersey guy.
Maybe I didn't.
Hoodie guy reaches in his pocket.
Right here.
Face is lighting up with his
Don't forget to
phone.
move the
The
spoon.
carbonara Mac of the week.
Here, I'll grab it for you.
Excellent.
And now
And then click
Jersey
see
guy
reward.
sees that group of girls are getting closer.
And it looks like you do not quite have enough points yet.
Here they
Oh,
come.
that's okay. That's okay.
$10.
The one girl in the gray hoodie leans in and kisses the Jersey guy. And as the girl kisses him, you see Kaylee turn to Maddie, because Kaylee's kind of looking in that direction in a second. And I'm assuming she says something to Maddie, like they're kissing, or so-and-so's here maybe. Because you see like Maddie kind of like look at her like, really, or something like that. In my opinion, it's just my opinion. The kiss. Kaylee looks over, says something to Maddie, and Maddie turns around and heads in that direction. As Maddie's walking by, the girl who just kissed the Jersey guy is walking past her there on the right. If you slow it down, or if you pause it a certain way, the girl in the gray hoodie who kissed Jersey guy is grinning. Like, I don't know, maybe she's happy about the kiss. Could be nothing, but just something I noticed a while ago. I haven't brought it to your guys' attention because I just don't know what it means. So again, watch the kiss. Kaylee sees it, says something to Maddie. Maddie looks at her, and then she turns right around to walk over there. And then the girl just walks by all grinning. And I don't know what it means. I'm not saying it means anything, but just something I noticed. But Maddie doesn't say anything to Jersey Guy the rest of the time that they're there. So here I'm just playing in, rewinding a little bit and going back to the very, very beginning. I'm glad that I was able to point that out for you, Tommy, because I've been noticing this stuff, but I'm like, I don't think anyone wants to go back and look at this stuff. But since nothing really new is coming out, I've kind of gone back and looked through and noticed like the hoodie guy getting like on his phone after the sleep signal and all that. Again, guys, I don't know if it means anything, but I do find it eerie. Here we see the Jersey guy watches them approach. Look, they're walking up. They don't even see him. Joe and him see them approach. And then after being there for a little bit, then Jersey Guy does that whole like, oh, hey. It's like, why didn't you say wave hello like right when I walked up there? And then there's a point where Joe V is like, I don't know if he's itching his back or what, but he like does like some weird like back itch. But I don't know. It's not at this frame, but there is a frame where he's like itching his back, and it's just, I don't know. Again, I'm just looking into this like very, very intently and all that, but I just want to know what that sleep signal was that Jersey Guy made. I'm sure all of this is being looked into. And David, that definitely could be. That's the thing. David said the sleep signal was directed to the guy standing right next to him. I mean, perhaps. I'm just pointing out things that I noticed in the video. I'm not saying they directly mean anything or anything like that. Yeah, same with me, Tommy. Tommy said, wow, I never saw that before. I was concentrating on hoodie guy. Me too. Then I relook at it and I'm like, wait, what? But anyways, guys, that was really what I wanted to bring to you guys today and talk about. Not really sure what it all means, but I just found it interesting. So let me just pull up what you guys are saying in chat and go through my notes while this is playing. Let's see. I want to make sure I talk on everything that I wanted to. So yeah, one thing I noticed too in the body cam footage was that how overgrown the grass was in the summertime. Did you guys notice that? I'm like, I don't understand why it was so overgrown. And remember early on too, I wanted to remind everyone of the mayor, when the mayor came out early on and was speaking about the case when it first broke, and he called it a crime of passion. So even though I don't believe, he had, the information to maybe say that, I found it interesting to kind of keep that in mind, that it was said by the mayor. And again, he maybe misquoted or maybe just didn't know what he was saying, but he did call this a crime of passion. So I just want to keep that up in mind. Law enforcement has said that this has been targeted. They've also used the word personal, obviously, because of the, it being a knife incident and up close in their bedrooms, etc. So just keeping those statements in my mind as well. The family also, I think it was Kaylee's family, said that there was a battle going on downstairs. They've also stated that he was sloppy in reference to the killer. They said Kaylee's injuries were significantly worse than Maddie's. We visited the idea that maybe somebody is framing Jack D, like trying to point the direction of Jack D when obviously it's not Jack D or something like that. I think that that's a possibility. Trying to look at my notes. Was Ethan and Xana collateral damage, or is it something linked to that alleged fight that took place at the fraternity that night? I think all that is a possibility. Just looking at chat, Tony said, I feel a lot of people may know what happened, but aren't talking. Hoodie guy waits until Maddie turns away before he gives sleep signal. That's true. And he kind of like walked behind people too when Jersey guy did that. I'm assuming you mean Jersey guy. Joe isn't looking good here, in my opinion. Maybe he's just being anxious at the wrong time or obnoxious at the wrong time. Right. And it didn't help. Somebody had said that he made some video, like recorded himself speaking about things, and then he deleted it. Like, why did he delete it? Not saying that he's the suspect. I'm just saying. Hi, Plankton. It's good to see you. So Plankton said that this perpetrator never had a date. They're socially awkward. The perpetrator or Joe V? I'm not sure who the tank top guy is. Okay, let me see. And I do think that it's good that, you know, the Moscow police have utilized federal resources right off the bat, and they weren't, you know, afraid to call them in and help them at all with any of this. So that's good news. I'm just looking at chat. So, Henry, that, as I stated, was just a rumor going around and it wasn't confirmed. But people claim that that rumor came from one of the family members of Ethan that said something about him being found on the floor or something. So again, we don't know the layout of the crime scene. We just know that the surviving roommates woke up and they summoned friends over before calling 911. So the fact that more people were added to the crime scene has altered the crime scene, in my opinion. So just looking through notes and chat, there was nothing I really had to bring up. I think we covered everything we had to cover. So it's just another noteworthy aspect is like there really does seem to be an affirmative link between that white Hyundai and this crime. So we really need to get that driver in. Because obviously they're the missing link to all this and the missing puzzle piece in helping them paint the picture. So just curious your guys' thoughts. Hi, Allison. It's good to see you. So I don't know, David. A lot of people are saying then that's Enon. Other people are saying it's not him. I can't tell if it's him. So I'm not set that that's actually Enon in that footage. But whose jacket is she wearing? I don't know. I know that people have stated that, you know, baggy stuff is in style, but I just don't know exactly whose that is. Definitely it looks like a male's jacket, but I don't know 100%. It could be a unisex and she's wearing it because I actually just got some baggier stuff for Christmas. So I don't know. It's just sort of the style. Yeah, it does look identical to. Was there a picture of Jack D with a jacket like that? She's wearing Ethan's jacket. And now the other thing is that was that the jacket that was picked up by the detectives? Remember we saw footage of that happening near the hydrant, the fire hydrant? Is that jacket? Yeah, me too, Canadian Cookie. She said, I change my mind every day with this case. Me too. And that's the thing is like, I don't want to seem like I have a set theory because I just don't have enough information to go down that avenue of where I'm thinking this is going. Now, I've gone down certain avenues for a minute and then kind of like walked back and been like, I don't know if I can commit to that. Like, I don't have like a gut feeling on any of these series that we discussed today. Yeah, remember that, Paul? I think CDT shared that. They picked up some jacket. Now, it was never stated whose it was. Somebody said, oh, that was just the detective's jacket that they left there. I mean, we just don't know that as a fact. But there is imagery of detectives picking up a jacket outside near the fire hydrant. That was a black jacket. I don't know, but I find her snapping that picture interesting. Does she take a picture in front of her or behind? And thank you so much, guys, for becoming members. KCE became a member. Thank you so much. And then somebody else, Lynn69, thank you so much for becoming a member. I really appreciate it. And I'm happy you guys were here with me this morning. Again, I'll be bringing you guys like the latest highlights in the case that I can. I'm still following this. I've been working behind the scenes on my Chris Watts Uncensored documentary, which will be coming out this weekend. And we will just keep discussing true crime here. So thank you so much for being here, everybody. We'll be following this case. And thank you, Florida Bass Fishing, and all my moderators. I appreciate you guys, and the channel members who joined, and anyone who liked the stream. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough. It's much appreciated. We'll be talking very, very soon. And yeah, you guys comment down below your thoughts. Angel, it's going to be long documentary, but I really hope you guys like it. A lot of my channel was built on following the Chris Watts case, so that's why I'm putting that documentary out. It's just going to be my research that I've done in that case for years. So hope you guys like it.
Very nice.
Oh, discuss. Oh, wait, I forgot. I added this part in. Okay, don't go yet. So I did want to touch on this real quick. We played this before, and we spoke about it on my stream before. I isolated the audio of her saying, of Maddie's pointing at the gentleman and saying, we'd never, and then she says, F you. And we talked about that before in the stream, and we said, okay, what does this mean? What was said to them? Maybe they were being rude. But then I had, and that's the thing that I love about your guys' comments and you guys participating in chat, is when she says we'd never F you, you know, it can be two different ways. You know what I mean? It can be the way that we discussed it as like maybe they said something rude, or maybe they were trying to hit on him. I don't know. But now I'm like, okay, wait, they could have said something and she said, we'd never. And then she says, F you. Like she's saying they're denying something. Like maybe they said, oh, you guys, something. And they're like offended by it, but like in a joking way, like we'd never. And then she goes, F you. So hi, Alex Erickson, and Merry Christmas. Glad you're here. So yeah, I just wanted to leave that there as a possibility. Exactly, Jesse, something like that. Like Jesse said, accusing them of not paying. Yeah, I mean, maybe it was something that they were like, no, you know what I mean? Like, how dare you type of talk, but like in a flirting way. And then she says, F you, you know what I mean? And then also, Alicia, that was the meaning that we or that we discussed before, that it could mean, like, meaning they'd never F him. Like maybe they were going down that avenue and they're like, we'd never F you. You know what I mean? Like maybe it was something like that. But then it's also like, maybe it would be like Jesse said, they accuse them of maybe not paying or leaving without paying. And she's saying, we'd never. And then she says, F you, mister, or whatever she says after. So I just wanted to lay that out there as like, this could go in two different meanings. That it could be, yeah, exactly, Tommy, or it could mean they'd never sleep with him. Exactly. I just think that I wanted to follow up with that because we had talked about it meaning that way, Tommy, that maybe they were saying that to them. But then I also realized that it could be a different meaning of like, we'd never F you, you know what I mean? So again, we don't know, the exact context of their conversation, but I found it important to kind of pull up, like it can go two different ways. You know what I mean? So let me just play this through and just kind of end on that note because I wanted to follow up with that. So thank you guys for being here, and you guys enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll be talking very, very soon. Yeah, and that's the thing, Renee, is maybe she was. We just don't know. She was stating F you to Joe. Yeah, Backyard Garden said Joe's videos are eye-opening. Either way, guys, like I said, there's no suspect named or arrested. We don't have enough information to kind of pick a theory. At least I don't right now. So thank you guys so much for being here, and we'll definitely be talking soon.
I'm going to end it, but